Good morning. It's Autumn with Thriving Heart Studio, day 3 of our 3-day workshop entitled The Journey of Spirals. I'm really excited if you've made it through all 3 days. Wow. So this is actually my first time ever cutting and collaging spirals. I wanted to try something new, challenge myself with a new kind of medium. I'm much more of a 2-dimensional artist. So 3-dimension was a challenge, but it's really, really awesome. So the kids and I explored last night. I want to show you a little bit of what they created. So they actually painted, so these small spirals, painted. We realized it had to be the back from the way that it stretches. They painted those, and then just by cutting, it pops up. And then we have the bigger ones. We're gonna lay like sideways. And then Liam did a blow art technique on the medium-sized ones and made a really cool tie-dye. Hi, Emily. And these ones had like a little interior spiral. Let's just say my hand is a little sore from cutting, what I should get through this workshop. So the cutting aspect does require a little dexterity. So you might need to help someone with a different fine motor ability. I will show you my technique and what works well for me. If you weren't able to create or print the templates, I actually found another method to do it. So I want to show you guys that too. And then I'm going to describe, so the kids painted because we had time for it to dry. But for our purposes, I'm going to be decorating with colored pencils and accent with markers. Okay, you want your main coloring to be the colored pencils because it'll be dry. And if you were to color this with marker, you might have to wait because when you go to cut, it could be really like a not so smooth cutting experience, right? So use your markers sparingly if you have those on hand, and use more of your colored pencils for your spirals. So I have a sheet underneath here that's just like my mess up sheet that I can put spirals on and whatever. I have another sheet that I will attach them to with scotch tape when they're completed. So have that on hand. And then I even have some colored paper because we can roll little sheets of it and just make little accent spirals. So I'll show you that technique also. So to start, I want to assume maybe someone is watching who doesn't have a template. So I'm just going to grab, this is just regular paper so I can show you how it might be done. Taking a medium-sized circle, and I'm just going to trace it like so. And I'm going to cut it out. I would say that cutting circles is the most challenging of all cutting activities. And what I do is I turn the page. So more than, sometimes I turn my arm too, but I found turning the page with your left and keeping your scissors kind of where it is the best way to cut out a circle. Okay, it's not perfect, but there's my circle. So now to make a spiral, I'm just gonna I'm gonna do what they did. So if you look at this sheet, they have like one segment cut in, right? So let's go ahead and do that and cut that off so we know what we're doing. Okay, so it's going to look very similar like that. And now I'm just going to start. This will be easier for me to cut in a counterclockwise. I'm just going to cut like it's a snake and try to keep it equidistant as I cut. And it's not going to be perfect. And you'll see I'm getting a nice spiral. Just be careful that your scissors don't cut the next one. But just small little movements, and I'm twisting my hand, if you see what I'm doing here. The hand is what is twisting, not so much the scissors, okay? So there, I created this. Now, it's a little floppy because it's not cardstock. So you'll see if you create with just paper, they might look really cool on a wall, but we can also stretch them and tape them. We can make cool things with it. So there's just an example in case you don't have a template. I want you to know you could just use paper and a circular shape. All right. So let's get going with the ones that are on cardstock. And I'm going to choose some colors to color. Oh yeah, I'm going to color the big ones because we realized that the small ones have to be decorated on the back. So to remind myself of that, I'm actually going to cut this in half. And right now I'm just going to focus on these two big guys. So let's do some polka dots with blue. This is Sharpie, but of course, if you have children, washable markers are a great option. And let's do some red little X's, maybe. Just gonna put a few different designs. And this is where you can get really creative. All the different ways that we've talked about decorating things. I'm gonna make a squiggle. You can bring that out, right? When you've got this freedom of decorating and coloring in objects. And now I'm going to put little tiny dots. And how about a blue colored pencil? And just shade that in. I'm not going to be extremely precise just to save time, but of course, feel free to make yours as beautiful as you want on your end. All right, so there's a very unique design of a spiral. And each of these spirals is intended to represent us as individuals. So when we make this collage, the message is that we're all processes, we're all unique, we're all our own little, spiral of experience, right? But we can coexist and live in harmony and help each other and support one another. So as you're creating, I want you, use all these colors and designs that you're familiar with. And remember, that's what makes our world so special and so unique. That it's full of unique people. And wouldn't this place be really drab if we were all the same? So we're going to make some unique spirals today in honor of that. All right, so there, I cut that. Now this is going to require me to cut the left-handed way, which isn't as comfortable as the right, but that's okay. So I'm going to just follow the line. I thought these templates were cool because they have the line right there for you. And I'm just twisting along. Is it better to color first and then cut is a question. Yes. Yes. Because if you were to cut this out, then you would have to kind of stay in the lines. And if your pencil hits something, it could kind of rip or tear. So much easier to decorate first and then cut. But if you did it the opposite way, just be careful and maybe color alongside as opposed to across each spiral. Leon's been listening to Frosty and Christmas music already. We are getting ready for the Christmas season. All right, so there's my spiral. That's now going to be a nice 3D image for me. And I'm going to be using scotch tape during this workshop, but you're welcome to use paste if you want, some glue. Probably because of the buoyancy and the force, scotch tape will be better. So there's my first spiral. I'm just going to sit. And of course, when you paint them, they have a little thicker texture than when you just color them in. So be mindful of that too. All right, I'm going to do my next big one. It's going to take some pink and make some lines following the swirl. And maybe I'll put some little black dots on the lines. This might be a really fun rainy day or snow day project with the kids. Hey, let's make some 3D spiral art, engage some of our friends. And you can start your children at a very young age, understanding how the world is full of different people and how we can love and support one another. All right, so I'm going to grab a pink. I kind of like this design, staying with more of the pink. And shade it around. So what we'll do is we'll decorate a good bit of spirals first, and then I'll show you some options of adding them to the paper. All right, I'm ready to cut, and I might cut off that extra while I do this. I'm using like a moderate in between scissors. So I think it's like a Fiskars, or no, it's a Scotch actually. It's nice, not too big, but not the little tiny small ones. So a medium size for medium adult hands. So finding a scissors that works for you for this kind of craft or any cutting craft would be very important. And remember, if you have a left-handed child, they make left-handed scissors. I have a left-handed little friend, and she was here one time, and she said, "You have a left-handed scissors?" I said, "I don't. That is something I'll have to get for you, hon," because she was really struggling with the right-handed. And of course, my fiance Chris is also left-handed. So if he cuts with us, he will need a left-handed scissors. So there's another just reminder. There are different people in the world that use different hands. Accommodating. I definitely learned a lot with having an autistic child. Different sensory system, modifying the ways that I might interact and take him places and support his body. That has taught me a lot about loving and appreciating all of the differences of the human species. So there's my second one. Emily says, "This is so therapeutic." Good. Yes, this is something you can just sit and nothing else to do except decorate and cut spirals, right? Wouldn't that be a cool full-time job? Okay, here's your 100 spirals to cut. Okay, so I got my two big ones. Now, like I said, for the small ones, we have to decorate the backs of them. So what I'm going to do is cut a few out. And if you were to mess up and whoops, scissors goes through a spiral, Scotch tape is right there on hand. I did that last night when I was cutting some of Liam's. The very end was very hard, and I accidentally cut something off. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I can remedy this with some Scotch tape. So know that there's no mistake you could make cutting that you most likely can't fix with tape. All right. I'm going to at least get 3 little ones cut out. Emily says she likes to volunteer to cut projects for her daughter's preschool. Yeah, I think it is pretty cool as long as it doesn't hurt your hand, right? Okay, so I have the 3. Flip them over. Remember. All right, I'm going to put some hearts on one. Maybe I'll color those in a different color. And then let's go with different shaped polka dots on the next one. Emily, you can let me know what designs that you're gravitating toward. I should probably do some stripes then, right? I've got hearts, polka dots. Now it's time for stripes. So let's get some green, kind of like a interesting green. And we'll make some stripes. Sharpie dries really fast compared to other markers because it's got alcohol in it. So I do appreciate that. All right, we're gonna put some orange specks on here. I might just leave that one just like that. That looks good to me. And then I'm going to take, let's see, a red and make just an interesting background. Maybe I'll put a few colors of colored pencils. So kind of just a wispy red, and now I'm going to add some yellow overlapping. See, I have my trusty underneath sheet, so if this goes off, it's not going to get my good sheet. And I'm adding some pink. Okay. And maybe I'm going to just add some green swirls in the back of my hearts. And color them in maybe different colors for the hearts. Green. And I even have a brown, tan, and maybe a red. And where's my yellow? All right, so there's my designs of my 3 smalls so far. So I did it on the back. So now I'm going to follow the lines and cut them each out. And for some reason, if you're using cardstock, just the nature of turning this, kind of the pressure I'm putting on the paper, the tension, causes it to curl. So you actually want to put that little bit of pressure on your paper. But if you're not doing it during the cutting experience, what I've noticed is after you cut your spirals, you just gently stretch them and you can get that more 3D look. And you can kind of, feel the tension building when too far might be too far when you're stretching paper. So be mindful of that. Okay, so just by me doing that, look how that worked out. It sprung. Much better than these. So these ones we're going to turn sideways. But these ones are going to be awesome standing up. So remember that. Smaller ones are probably going to be best standing up. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut these 2 out, because I do want to make sure we get to some of the collaging, and then we can go back if I have more time and create some other spirals. And if you're watching at home or catching the replay, I'm using cardstock. I'm using colored pencils and markers. You can even paint the night before and let your spirals dry. I just found my spirals, the template on the internet. Lots of free templates. Looks like little snakes, huh? Ooh, Emily says she's making her elemental theme. Yes, so this is going to be a lot of random designs and even like collage. But maybe as you're making a collage, you have a theme. And you can make it water and sky or dirt or rock looking or whatever. And these actually, there's some, I think, design patterns to make flowers with the spirals. So if you kind of turn them in on themselves, you can make roses. So I couldn't quite figure that out when I was playing around with the ones that I did print. But you can always look how to make flowers. All right, keep turning that guy. It gets kind of harder towards the edge, towards the top. All right, there's my third springy spiral. So now I've got 5. I got the 2 big and 3 small. I'm going to go ahead and work on the medium. Now these are actually a little bit more difficult because as you see, there's an internal spiral in there. But when I cut that out, I'll show you what it looks like. It made a really cool thin spiral to work with. So if you can, if you don't, you can try one if it's too difficult, if you have this template. Don't worry about it, getting that little one out if you find it's too difficult. But it makes a really cool look if you do. So these I can decorate just as is. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, this is also, like, we're going to cut that out, right? So we have to color that in also. So you're not just coloring in the image, you're coloring in that line. So in other words, you can just assume it's a big circle and color it in. I'm going to make this half and half. Half blue and half purple. Okay, and I'm not being too precise. There's a half and half. I might do that with another one. Or what if I did fourths? There's a good design. 1/4 of it is orange. One-fourth is blue. One-fourth is red, but we'll do it down catty corner from the orange for contrast. Looks like a Simon Says. That's what I'm making. And remember, when you're creating art, it's nice not to have everything planned out in advance. Give that art some room to access your intuition and your creativity to flow. Kids like that too. They don't like an art project that has the 6 steps and it's all just the same and it's just about going through the steps, right? The kids love putting their own flavor onto it. And that's a lot what this craft is about. Our world is full of people who all have their own preferences and creativity. So let's put that into our artwork, right? And there's never anything that's wrong in art. And I love that about it. It is just what you want it to be. You have that complete freedom. Not everywhere in our life do we always have complete freedom to be 100% what we want to be. And that's just, you know, the way life is sometimes with society and rules and respecting others. But with art, you just do you, right? No matter what. Okay, so here's my medium-sized ones. So now what I found was the best way to actually start on the most interior to cut. So I'm starting, I'll show you that, on the interior one. And again, I'm following along the line, but I also learned, make the line visible. Don't actually cut on the line, cut right next to it if you're cutting something really small and skinny, because then you're gonna get the maximum size of that interior spiral. And that's just easier because it's so small. So I'm actually seeing the line and cutting right next to it. Yes, and Emily says, art is about the action, the process of creating, not about the end product. That is right. Who cares what we create at the end, right? It's for our own personal enjoyment. Okay, so I'm getting to my end. And I'm actually just going to turn and go back the other way with this interior spiral. So it's good for me to practice last night because then I was able to feel confident when I teach. Okay, this is the way that helps or works the best, right? So a lot of times, I know one of my friends recommended this. If you're going to plan a craft with the kids, do it first yourself. So any of the hiccups are caught before you're, you know, in the process. But of course, you know, that's okay too. Kids are resilient. They can get through your hiccups too. Okay, so here's my cool spirals. Look at that one. All right. Now, if you ever wanted to do both sides, you could, depending on how they show up on your craft, you might have some exposure of the bottom. But for our purposes, one side will work. So now I'm going to cut this. And then after I get these, we're going to go ahead and start the collaging and see what we can create. Three-dimensional. Thank you, Emily. Emily says, my tips are helpful. We all learn by doing. So think about what we're representing here, ourselves as all unique individuals together. We all have learned something along our journeys that we could possibly share with others. So being open to share your wisdom and listen to the wisdom of others makes for a pretty awesome human being, right? I try to teach my children that everybody is different. We all have something to offer each other. And if we judge and avoid people who are different, we really miss out, right? Now, there are some times where we're like, okay, this person is not right for me, not good for me, and that's a different kind of case. But just because they're different and you don't understand doesn't mean you can't understand, right? With a little bit of time and tuning into them and listening with an open heart. Okay. So now I actually have, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spirals I can start to collage with. And then I still have 5 more to decorate if we have time. So I'm going to go ahead and move out my little sheet to color on. Move in my official sheet. And I'm going to start with the biggest ones. That way that I can work the little ones around because I have more versatility with them. So let's get my big ones, which also includes these guys, and Scotch tape. So what I found, just a little inch or so, if you can put your one so that the bottom is right on the bottom, you can tape this little guy down and this down and make like a tunnel. So I'll do it and then I'll show you what I mean. I'm gonna go as far in a corner as I can. I'm probably gonna put my 2 ones in corners, but feel free to put yours wherever you want on the page. So there's one, and I'm gonna stretch it a good bit. You can choose how much you want to stretch it. You know, if you stretch too far, it might put a lot of tension on your tape and it might come off. So you can learn what might be too far. But here's my first spiral on. And so you see some of the white is showing if you look at it that direction, but that's okay. The angle that we're probably going to look at it, we'll see the decorations. So my other mirrored big one, and they do tangle, so be careful as you put them in a pile. I'm going to put this other one in the other corner because I like symmetry. I'm a Libra. We like balance and symmetry. So mine will probably look a little balanced and symmetrical. All right. And if your tape goes down and not the perfect spot, just add some more. It's not worth picking tape off paper. I've learned. Same thing with wrapping. Oh, now look what I did. So I did this wrong, but I'm going to figure it out. So this should actually be down and not up like this. But when I do it now, it's going to make a different kind of shape. So why not? We call this happy little accidents in art. So mine's going to look like a U. Oh, it made a cool shape. Okay. So that was me not following the exact same pattern as that side, and it still worked out. Okay, so you see the 3-dimensional we got going on? Now I got these other big guys. So what you could do is you could actually attach a spiral to a spiral. So let me show you this, for example. So this guy is going to go on his edge. Just going to wrap the tape around. I have not done this. I'm just totally experimenting. And now I'm just going to pull that spiral a little bit. Actually, I don't know if I like that because the white is showing a lot from the back one. So let's do this. Let's put him through the other spiral. All right, I literally just connected a spiral to a spiral. I just taped one time. So I'm going to leave that like that because that was me experimenting. And I'm going to put this one directly in the center, coming down like the first one. Make sure I've got it the right angle. So there really is no wrong way to connect spirals. Okay, and I'll tape that right down. So there's 4 spirals of mine on. And this guy is just chillaxing on top of another one. All right. Now, let's see if I can put a small one, you know, kind of hanging out with this other guy. I'll show you that. I'm going to tape down both sides so he stays nice and snug. So, see how he's interconnected too? So you can see how we're kind of demonstrating how we're all interconnected as individuals, as we're all these awesome looking spirals, right? So I feel like I should put a small one on right now, coming out of the other big one. Just kind of have fun. Now this edge is actually coming up, so maybe I'm just going to connect him. Ooh, look at that. All right, that was just an awesome intuitive exploration. If you can see it, it's the little guy connected to the big guy. So there's all different ways you can explore. The only thing with tape is, you know, it's kind of, once you do something, you're kind of committed to it. But maybe not. If you want to pick it up carefully and explore with that, no harm in that either. So this one, I'm going to stretch forward and around, kind of make him, he's actually turning backwards. So he's going to get connected to another one, just so his back isn't showing. Okay. So now I connected that one. And they, see how wiggly they are? Okay, that's fun too. Get the movement. We got a 3D kinesthetic craft. How about that? All right, so now I got 3 more. Oh, I got 2 more small guys. And then I want to show you how to make some ribbon. So I'm just going to put these guys right maybe in the center. And with the small ones, I'm putting tape on one side and the other side. And I'm also going to invite you guys to decorate the bottom of your craft if you want with some designs. Sharpie works well because you can write over the scotch tape, but you know, you can also just use marker or colored pencil around the areas. I thought about doing some ribbon hearts with the idea that we're all connected by loving and supporting one another. So here's what I've got so far with my spirals. The tape can be a learning analogy too. Yes, yes. We tape ourselves to some situations. We attach and sometimes we detach, right? Yeah, there's so many things, metaphors, art can totally teach us about. Okay, so let me show you something cool. If you have any, this is actually thin origami paper, but construction paper would work too, or regular white paper that you decorate. I'm going to show you an example of just creating a ribbon. So I'm cutting like 1 centimeter. Okay, there's 1 centimeter of thickness. And I'm just going to take a marker. Remember doing this when you were kids? Maybe. And I'm going to wrap it. It's kind of difficult to wrap. But as I'm wrapping and putting that tension on the paper, I'm actually curling it, if it'll cooperate. It's kind of hard because if you let go, it wants to flop. go the other way. But okay, so let's see what I've got so far. All right, so I got a partially curved ribbon. So now I can just put this anywhere, maybe in a way that serves my artwork. It's a little long there, so we'll put it like here. All right, we're just gonna add some three-dimensional fun. I'm gonna put a few of those on, and then I'll show you decorating the bottom a little. All right, so let's curl this one directly without going up the marker. Let's see what happens if we keep it pretty close. And that was a little easier for my hand to catch. Okay, I'm holding that tight. Let go. What do I got? I got a nice pig's tail, right? You can make an animal with some spirals and add tails. All right, so now what if I want to connect spirals with this one, you know, just for fun. So I'm going to put one over here. And stretch it, maybe even across. Oh, maybe too far. I'm going to kind of go with the flow of the spiral. So we're not stretching it where it's uncomfortable. But now I have like a little green connector, a freebie blue one. And I'm going to add one more. How about a purple one on the other side? Let's make them smaller. Let's see if I make two small purple ones, what that might look like. So you can kind of experiment and play around with this kind of activity. All right. Now I'm just making my two small purples. Nothing fancy, just wrapping it around a marker. All right. They don't look as cool because they're not as long. So let me try, maybe I'll try something smaller like a pencil. Just to get that curve. Okay, it is what it is. Let's see. This one makes a nice circle I can put down on my paper. How's that? I'll show you guys. And maybe, let's see. You're not too bad. You make a nice little shape in the middle. Rolling inward. Okay? So, smaller ones are going to make more of a circle shape or a little rolling in. But right? Looks like an amusement park to me, doesn't it? Like, whoa, this looks like someplace I'd like to go play. All right, so now I'm going to take some markers and just decorate the bottom, some of the white areas. So I'm going to make a heart, but have it not closed all the way so I can make a ribbon spiral with it. So I'll show you what I mean. So first heart and then a ribbon spiral. Okay. And then I'll show you guys and I'll color it in. It's not perfect in length. All right. So there's just a heart and a ribbon. Emily says she was thinking carnival vibes too. And see, now this thing is kind of acting up, so I might have to figure out, like, maybe he needs an extra piece of tape on this side to keep him upright. There. And just curl him a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to color in my ribbon heart. And maybe there's a phrase you can think of. You could write on your artwork. I think I have one coming to mind for me. I'm going to write a phrase and I'm going to see if you guys like it. Okay. In a world of plain lines, be a spiral. So you can think of an affirmation or something cool to put on your artwork. So there's mine. In a world of plain lines, be a spiral. How's that? And maybe I'll make a spiral underneath it. Some designs. All right, I'm going to put some little decorative dots in there. So that's what I've got so far. And I might add a little bit more to my bottom. And your 3D crafts, they could hang on a wall or they could just sit on top of something to display. Probably the way that we make them is going to hold the best because gravity is going to be pulling everything that way versus, you know, it's an experiment, a science experiment with your kids. What happens when gravity pulls on your artwork on the side? You have to see how long the tape holds, right? So you can play around with that, how you display. And of course, it's not something you have to keep forever. You can make this again and do all different types of spiral art. And if you ever made a greeting card and you had the spirals are flat, when the friend or loved one opens the greeting card, your spirals will pop out to them. Or if they shake it a little bit, hopefully they will. So there's that idea. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Just to recap, I used templates that I printed and cardstock. The kids were able to paint there, so they'll be making their own today, their own projects. Lots of cool designs. Stretching is a key, but not stretching too much, feeling the tension. Having a good scissors and cutting carefully, following the lines. Scotch tape seems to work pretty good compared to pasting, though pasting is still an option. And if you don't have a template, you could use just circular shapes and paper. I was able to do that. I demonstrated that in the first few minutes. You know, and this will stretch and work just the same as the ones I made. So use what you got, right? That's important. If you don't have cardstock, just use construction paper and regular paper. The idea is to have fun creating. All right. So this workshop and the other two I taught will be available on my Facebook page at Thriving Heart Studio for the next week. So if you catch the replays or do it again, whatever you want, it will be available. And then after a week, it will be available to purchase. So that's how I'm going to work all my workshops. And we'll have another one in December. I'm not sure what, probably something holiday themed because it'll be like mid-December at that time. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for being here.